Reason
You
is,
guys should work this out.
just for everyone's information, our website is not working properly.
Okay.
Wait, isn't that on the agenda?
The website itself or the
No,
the
we're
Zoom?
trying to connect. It says that it's not what?
Okay.
What's
But
it
this-
say?
It has to do with a security certificate.
No.
So if you try to log in and your personal computer has a heightened security sense, it might alert you. It'll stop you from logging in, but then it'll give you like in fine print down below if you wish to continue down here and then work around it. But not many people, they're not too savvy with the computer, would know how to do that. So I just called Peter at Precision and he and Mike are trying to fix it.
And that would affect everybody who's going to the website to get our Zoom link and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and or documents, right?
Yeah, but it's encouraging we have at least Jennifer and Lieutenant McCall. So at least a couple of
Give
people.
it a few minutes to see if it comes online, or shall we go ahead and get started?
It's up to the council to decide. That there is a clause on the agenda that says any kind of technical disruption does not halt the progress of the meeting. You know, that is a standard disclosure that we have. So if you want to be curious, we can wait 5 minutes, see what happens.
What would you prefer, you guys? You want to proceed? Okay,
Yeah,
see, pretty much unanimous nodding of heads. All right, so we're going to go ahead and proceed, and then we'll do our best to catch folks up if we need to on any
Yep.
salient issues. So
I do
with
like
that,
that.
let's call the meeting order. Do the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic which is stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next up is the approval of tonight's agenda. I believe, Steve, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to pull item. Where is it? Number 5. I have yet to be able to connect with the city manager from Arcata. We've just been doing the email tag, so if we could push that to a future date. So I would move to approve the agenda minus item 5.
Second.
Second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we will move without that item to approval of the minutes, and the minutes that were distributed are from February 28th. So they're on the website as of this afternoon, and I actually have a hard copy if anybody needs one. And I do have one correction, unless anybody else, does anyone else have a correction?
And I wasn't there, so I go.
Oh, that's right, so you don't see. I only had one correction on page 2 under council comments by Kelly. It says, pleased to discover that Murphy's Market sells cigarettes. And I think what I said was, I was pleased to discover that Murphy's Market doesn't sell vape. They don't vapes, they only sell cigarettes. So I didn't want to go on record as being super happy about cigarettes.
And probably want to correct the spelling of cells, but that's.
Yeah, and we did comment that the Chevron does sell vapes, but I don't think that needs to be in there. It's correction. Anything else? Right? Is there a motion to approve the correction?
Public.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any public comments about the February 28th meeting minutes?
So I'm gonna go, is there any way to get the packet on Sunday? Or, you know, because my work schedule doesn't permit.
Yeah,
And
so
I could get in the minutes this afternoon.
Yeah, we can deliver a hard copy. Andrew with the planning commission, he puts them out in the glass case on Fridays, and then the planning commissioners come and get it. If they want hard copies, how many?
But it's not just a hard copy, if I can get the.
Happy to.
Yeah. Like Sunday, then that gives me the day to read it.
yeah, so I think the packet was available on Friday.
Yeah, they're-
The minutes were this afternoon.
Yeah,
And so I think Katie's point is just if we can have those by Sunday at the latest, then then we can review them. Otherwise, maybe push them to the next meeting. Is that what you're-
Yeah, that is.
All right, thank you. I don't see any comments from the public on the February 28th meeting minutes. Although we are, because the website is down, I know folks are kind of coming online slowly, so just kind of keeping an eye out. But I think what we'll do is go ahead and bring it back, and if there's any.
I'll move it.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So we're going to move on to council reports and committee assignments. And Jack and I start with the intro.
Just the only thing I have to do is postpone the trails meeting till the 18th of April, so. And all it could be on at 5 o'clock on April 18th.
Nothing to report.
I just have a very quick one. We had the meeting of the California National Monument Trinidad Gateway Group, CC and M, on March 9th. And just really quick, there's some pursuit of some research grants, studying seabirds, which I thought was very nice. There was a discussion about maybe having some sort of an urchin soiree of some sort, celebrating the urchins. Probably the biggest discussion was more around whales. So the concept of Trinidad having like a whale fest. Jason Self actually suggested that from the Trinidad Kayak Trinidad. And so we discussed that. The feeling was it's a little late for this year because March through May is whale migration season, and we're a little late to plan an event, but that maybe that would be something we'd like to do next year. And that was kind of the big highlights, I think, that are relevant to Trinidad. But you have anything you want to report? Okay, Jack.
Redwood Coast Energy Authority, they were talking about how PG&E is changing their solar rate structure. They call it NEM 2 to NEM 3, which will be taking effect mid-April, April 15th. So if anyone was interested in getting solar before April, you could still have a good payback around 7 years, but then after April 15th, payback goes to about 12 years unless you add a battery to the system. So if you're on the fence right now, it's best to lock in your contract in the next days to be grandfathered. Yeah, that's all I have.
That's good to know. Thank you. All right, so next up then is staff report. So Eli, I'll turn it over to you for the city manager report.
And I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Collins for law enforcement.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I apologize. I'm in my car and I'm having some connection and Bluetooth issues, so I don't have great volume at the moment. So yeah, just a quick rundown stats from February. Calls for service taken were down a little over 20 from the month of January, which equated to about a 12% reduction in calls for service. Reports taken stayed about the same. There was 13 in January, 12 reports taken in February. 2 arrests in February, which was down from 5 in January. We had 5 felony investigations and 2 misdemeanor investigations. Looks like of these, we had 1 assault report taken in February, a couple of burglaries, being a building or vehicle, 2 vandalisms. I believe one of those, at least one of those, is related to the reporting of the broken windows that occurred with the library and the museum in that area, which was from I believe earlier in the month or previous month. 5 general disturbances, 1 trespass or prowler call, 2 stolen vehicle recovery calls, and then pardon me, I lost my spot here on my page. We had 4 alarms, 6 patrol checks, 1 pedestrian check, 8 suspicious person or vehicle type calls, 9 unwanted or subjects or trespass camping type calls, and 3 traffic stops or vehicle investigations, with a total of 132 miscellaneous calls in February, which was down from 165 in January.
All right, any follow-up questions for Lieutenant McCall? Katie?
Yes, if I may ask you, what area does this report cover?
So it's going to be the greater Trinidad area. It's not confined just because of the way the system is. When we pull those stats up, since the zip code in that area covers more than just actual Trinidad proper in the city limits, it does include the outlying Trinidad area.
I was just going to note to Lieutenant McCall that one of our residents had commented that if we could have the reports done like they in the past, and this is what he said. Suggestion is for city to ask the sheriff's office to return to their past practice underlining the Trinidad City calls for service on the report. I know that Margaret did that for a while for us. Can't recall if it was 6 months or what, but if it's at all possible, that would be helpful for our residents.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Again, my audio here is a little bit sketchy, and I'm getting a little bit of echo in that. I don't know if you could repeat it, or if it's possible to have the city clerk or somebody just email me what the request was, and I can see what we can do regarding that, whichever may be easier right now.
Okay. Is if there is the echo, it might be difficult by I'll try to repeat it one more time and then have an email sent. Suggestion by one of our residents is to return to the past practice of underlining the Trinidad City calls for service on the report, which Margaret did for a short period of time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still having a kind of a difficult time understanding it. If it's possible to have it emailed me to me, I could definitely try and sort out what the inquiry is and what's been done with the past and how we can address that to try and maybe do it in that format.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I think then, thank you, Lieutenant McCall. I think then we're ready for Eli, if you want to continue with your staff report.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Lieutenant McCall.
Thank you.
So you have in the packet the city manager's report. The first thing I had mentioned in there was about the water main break. So in addition to what appeared in there, we had a meeting this afternoon on site in the rain for I guess it was about an hour and a half. So Steve Allen, our city engineer, and we had Ron Sundberg from Rancheria present. And then there were a couple of representatives from Indian Health Services present, and representatives from both GR Sundberg and also representative from Wallet Construction. The discussion was centered on how we can prevent that issue that happened with the water main break. And the suggestion was basically to have isolation valves placed on either side of where the water main break occurred. Indian Health Services is looking into being able to hopefully help cover costs. And also the county had been approached by the Rancheria to see if they could help with any repairs of the street in that area where the slide has been happening, which is the same place where the slide ended up affecting the water main and it's pipe apart. I'm not sure the information I received if there was a crack or just pulling it apart. I think it's basically apart. Also gave Indian Health Services the bill from GR Sundberg to see what they can help cover. And also the gallons of water that we lost, if we are able to get any help from either the county or Indian Health Services, that would be ideal. Otherwise, we can submit it to our insurance company and see if it's possible to have it covered. I'm not sure if it is one of the places we have it covered, but we can request that. I mentioned in there also about Measure C funding, and we made a request for 85,000. And in there, I did say that good news is that we did file the application for funding, and the bad news is that there were over $15 million requested, and there's only about 1 million available. So, let's see what happens. Also, Jennifer had prepared the business license update, SPR license update, which I included those numbers in the report. And then mentioned in the report is website, and Gerald and Gabe and I were looking at various options for the website yesterday, with Civic Plus had presented to us as far as the look of the website. But so far, we're happy with the feedback we're getting and the work that apparently is being done by Civic Plus. So hopefully that will continue. And yes, I also mentioned in the report about water plant staffing, and if there's any other questions or comments, I'll entertain those.
Are there any questions for you? Right, any public comments or questions on the staff report?
Am I allowed to comment or ask a question?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to comment on a lot of the. There was Ron somewhere just to.
Is that what I said?
You said Ryan.
Oh, I thought I said.
Maybe I heard you wrong. It was Ron.
Okay.
And there was damage to the resident below in that water. There was tremendous amount of water that went over the hill and over the hillside down near the ocean. And I remember was asking if there could be anything turned in to anyone. And I wasn't able to be down there today, so I thought I would bring that back around. And if there is an insurance coverage on that, that would be amazing. We can definitely take pictures, that kind of thing. But I'm very, very happy and pleased with the coordination and cooperation of all of us. The Indian Health Service, we got on the phone, we called them right away to come out and be responsive. Jillian Tiles is the regional representative, and she did it. She got right on it. She has 15,000 in temporary funds, and she said she would really look at trying to cover the costs plus the relocation of the bottle. And that's what we're looking at. So, and isolating that in that area is really. The county is not able to help at this time. They may come and put more asphalt on it, so it's not such a deep. But Director of Public Works Tom Matson told me today that he did put in a disaster declaration project on that location, but it would be quite some time, as we all know, for those FEMA, those cost estimates to be done. So we're definitely concerned about the continued slope. We stabilizing there as our only way in and out, and just documenting that and making that comment tonight. And if there's anything, Eli, if you can follow up, if there's any way to quantify the damage, we'll do that to that residence property. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I did want to first of all thank Jackie, because right away that morning after I had discovered about the break in water main, she called and said that she had already contacted the county and also the health services. And again, they were present this afternoon. So Yeah, we'll see what we can do as far as that. What they did today is talk about the water that was coming down, and we tested because there's still water going down, and we tested and identified that there's no chlorine in it, and then you can see all of the water that's just rushing down from the hillside because of all the rains. And I know specifically CR because because I do teach there. Where they're located, they had to actually tell people to stay on campus today. Fortunately, it's spring break, but they told staff to remain in place because there was flooding in both directions when you left CR. So eventually they told them that they could leave.
And a tree fell over because the flooding wasn't enough. A tree also fell the north exit. So
But there's a lot of water that's just coming down in different places. But yeah, we'll check and see. We were also going to check about the 200,000 gallons that we estimated that we lost to see if our insurance company can help cover. Hopefully, we'll find some money for all of these issues.
I hope so. Thank you. I don't see any other public comments, so we'll on the staff report. So we'll go ahead and move on to items from the floor. At this time, members of the public can comment on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Individual comments will be limited to around 3 minutes or less. Please direct your comments to the council as a whole, maintain decorum, and avoid personal attacks on staff members or the council or other members of the public. And council and staff responses will be minimal for non-agenda items. With that, are there any public comments? I almost should ask first if there are going to be any before I do the preamble. Okay, so I see no items from the floor, so let's go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. And are there any questions or comments about the consent agenda or any motions?
no, I just said public comment before.
Oh, okay, yes. Are there any public comments with regard to the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for motion.
And we should accept the, February 20.
Is there a second? And all those in favor? All right, the consent agenda is approved. And that brings us to tonight's first discussion and action agenda item, which is the discussion and decision regarding highway safety improvement program, project proposal for guardrails, crosswalks and striping. And then I think, are we going to combine? Well, we'll get to the
Yes.
traffic calming. Are we going to combine them? Okay.
No, separately, we'll have the one and then do.
Separately. Okay, sorry. I was going to ask if we should go ahead and include traffic calming. So with that, Josh, I guess I'm turning it over to you. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Wants to do a preamble. Okay, great. We'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, good evening.
Take it away.
Nice to see everyone in person after a number of years. Yep, thank you, Gabe, for bringing that up. So yes, what I'll do today is just give you a project update. So this is on the city's HSIP cycle 10 project. I'll keep it pretty brief. Obviously, if you have questions as I go, feel free to jump in on them at the end. Either way is fine. We're here because this project has been going on for a couple of years now. We're at the point where environmental work is now complete. We're wrapping up the design work, we're wrapping up the right-of-way work, and anticipate taking the project to Caltrans to get approval to proceed with the construction in the coming months. So I want to provide you an update. I'll also say that this will be the last time you'll be able to look at this. When we do solicit bids for contractor, we do then bring it back to council for approval of actual contract. All right, so yes, here's a just brief presentation outline. It's going to be pretty brief. We'll do a quick project overview, talk about funding. And I really want to spend some time going through the various project components, talk about the next steps, and we can take any questions you may have. And then before I go on, I do want to acknowledge that I do have a colleague here who Penny, who's done a lot of work in Trinidad over the years. Some of you may have heard in the past. She's been on this project So here's just an overview of the project, and most of the information here is stuff that you've probably seen in the staff report, but pretty quickly. But again, in November of 2020, the city did submit 3 separate applications to the Caltrans Highway Safety Improvement Program, that's the HSIP program. And there were set aside components. So the HSIP program has a set aside program, which is really specific countermeasures that the state and federal government have found address safety concerns. So sometimes these grant projects programs are pretty broad. You can sort of apply for different components. In this case, it's very specific. Under this program, there's basically 3 different components. There was a tribal component. Obviously, the city wasn't eligible for that. But these are the 3 components that this was first one, I'll go through each of these in a little bit more detail. The first one is installing edge lines. So edge lines on the road. It could also include some center line striping improvements, some other sign striping improvements. Second here is guardrail improvements. So this is very targeted for existing guardrail systems. So it's not for new guardrail systems. It's going to upgrade, replace existing systems that are outdated and don't currently. Last one is the pedestrian crossing enhancements. So these are either improvements to existing crosswalks, or it could be improvements to new crosswalks, create new crosswalks. So it's the striping, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. So these are push button crossing signs that you guys actually have right out front of the town hall here. Curb extension, replacement, or upgrades to curb ramps that are non-compliant. Also striping and marking. But then in March of 2021, city was notified that all 3 applications were included. Funding tools here. Projects. I also want to note there was 3 separate projects. The safety implementation outcomes on the city. I'll just So now I want to just get into the various improvements. So first one up, this is the edge line improvements. So again, this is primarily focused on edge line, but it does allow for center line striping. Also other signage improvements on these roads. Signs pretty outdated, they'd be very faded. Retro reflectivity. That's all. There's part of this project that we're able to pick up some as well. So there's 3 different areas. The edge line stripe was focused on. First up, Stagecoach Road. This is essentially from the main street area street intersection of the city limits and not too far. You know, Stagecoach is pretty narrow, so these improvements are limited really just to the edge line striping. It's not wide enough for the center line striping. If I put an edge line striping, it's just so narrow. Provide a little bit more visibility on. Signs to except the West 8 drives, this is another sort of short segment, essentially from one ramps. For the center line stripe along West 8 drives, we'll replace that and add additional stripes. That's actually as well. And then most of the stripe improvements are actually focused on Trinidad Frontage Road. That road, sure you know, it's a fairly wide road. There is center line stripe, no edge line stripes. The plan is actually add the edge line stripes, actually narrow the travel lanes a little bit. Make things feel a little bit narrower, and lead the vehicles driving a little slow. Also provides room for bicycles, pedestrians to have to use on the road as well. Place the center line stripe again, and that's signs. And I want to point out that much of this component of the work, the Trinidad Frontage Road, is actually county right away. So this application was put together. It was a collaboration with County Humboldt. Put a lot of way to city right away on Frontage Road. So we asked them if they'd be open to us. So we are working with them. We are helping the approach permit from them. We'll talk a little bit more about that later because it's going on the also part of that. I just want to improvements to include something that's in county right away to serve the city.
That's just on a frontage road.
That's frontage road. There's a guardrail improvement. There's also county right away. Okay, actually, now what's the slide? Right, so the guardrail upgrade, so there's essentially 4 locations, 3 of them are within the city limits. We'll start with one of the city limits, these are on Scenic Drive, they're all south of the road. There's one set of guardrail that's actually just north of the city limits on Patrick's Point Drive. Very close to city limits, but again, just outside the city limits. So you get, that one. Collaboration with the county, not only actually the county actually does pass this that we did include. The county does participate in each program, and they actually tend to invite local agencies in, and they will actually do the program, and they'll invite some agencies in so that they can pick up their guardrail work. But their program is maxed out after this grant, so they asked that we just include this. Also point out, and further, the grant is actually 100% funded, so it wasn't sitting there. So now I want to run through the pedestrian crossing enhancements. There are 3 locations shown here. Again, they're for new or enhanced crosswalks, the markings, retrofits will be improving current ADA standards, installation of the RFPs, extensions, various signage, striping enhancements. Locations: Main Street review, Edward Street, Hector Street, Edward Street, Gordon Street, and all for each one of those. First is Main Street and View Street. So currently, actually, at this intersection, there are 2 existing crosswalks, and one across the path as well as one across Main Street. The crosswalk was enhancements to both. West side of U Street on the a trailer park, and this actually replaced the existing driveways with the curb ramp there, neither are compliant with current ADA standards. On the opposite side of the intersection, for the Saunders Plaza, the existing curb ramp, that one actually also flags in non-compliance. So that one as well is actually have 2 separate curb ramps, one for each direction of the crosswalk, and then we're going to do a very subtle rollout. Remember to accommodate those curb ramps, but also help to shorten the crossing distance for pedestrians a little bit further in the road, the seat center, and then also allow vehicles to see pedestrians before they cross.
Are you proposing signage there as well, or just markings on the road?
Yes, so as part of that, we're also proposing to put in RFPs, so that the pedestrian quick run crossing, just like you see out here, there would be one on each side of the road, dual sided, identical. What you can see out here, the sign's a little different because this is a school zone. Essentially the same. Crosswalk markings are replaced. Well, the other private markings in the area.
Talk about trying to keep the larger vehicles on Main Street and not have to use you. What they done to discourage your vehicles from going down the road on the process?
No, not as part of the budget. I mean, in fact, we went out to see the Burpees markets and the Saunders Plaza, so we really didn't want to create a full balance and restrict truck access. And our due diligence and look closely to make sure that the full balance we are proposing it is very subtle, so that it can't accommodate stuff. Right, so now Edward Street and Hector Street, and there's actually, as I mentioned, there's 2 different projects on Edward Street, so access to the further west. As you know, there is a sidewalk on Edwards. It currently ends at Hector. Continue on Edwards. A plan here where this is pedestrians walking down the end of the crosswalk. Most pedestrians, in my experience, tend to cross and walk on the south side of the street. There's a shoulder there, there's some parking. It's a little bit more sometimes historically than we take advantage of the road. So really kind of get that. Data when this was first proposed, the Damon Trail is still actually a real project moving forward. And so the thought was that this was going to it doesn't at this point. So it provides a lot of value. Definitely across the road, crosswalk on it. This would be a new crosswalk, we replace the curb ramp, the curb ramp also not compliant in terms of ADA standards. Give it down to the RFP, so this is the sign push button signs. To do a photo simulation is essentially a comparison of what the existing conditions look like on the left and then what the conditions look like on the right. So pretty subtle. Obviously, there's some additional crosswalk striping markings you can see on the right side. Those diagonal markings you see right where the cursor is. Those are all the chart keep. Those are really essentially field lines. Vehicles building application, people use crosswalks, provide a little bit more enhancement, visibility of crosswalk, and then obviously you see there probably the signage. So this is Edwards and Galindo. So next intersection down, again, there is a sidewalk on Galindo Street. So it comes up to Galindo, and then it ends on Edwards Street. There is a curb ramp there, but there will be anywhere. This we would get is that curb ramp. There's one lane, standards, crosswalk, avenue, consistency. Parts too, I want to point out, you see this diagonal hatched areas for a portion of the stream. So there is currently parking there, on-street parking. Part of this would need to eliminate that parking. Provide enhanced visibility of pedestrians. You really just can't have cars approaching in that area where people can cross the road and increasing visibility. But we did take a really detailed look at all the parking on Edwards, and we did find that it was very minor reductions in red curb paint in some specific areas. We can actually offset the loss of parking here.
And our RFP, is that a flashing?
It's, yeah, it is.
Like that.
It's just like one out here. Yeah, so it's the rectangular. Solar power.
Okay, thank you. So it's flashing. Yeah. And did you look at the option of having like one crosswalk versus two, since it's a fairly, we've gotten some public comment. One was to do just one, and I had been kind of thinking about that. I got another public comment where someone said, well, I like two. So I think you probably looked at both.
I can address that. Where we put these in a couple of reasons. One is you certainly want to put more people across, and it makes sense to put them where crosswalks or sidewalks in, because that's where you're either getting on the shoulder or you're going to both those locations. The other thing you do is when you look at crosswalks, you want to put them where vehicles expect people to be crossed, and that's usually an intersection. So if you're ever going to put a crosswalk in, the first thing you do is look at the intersections. Otherwise, it's called mid-block crossing. Those have higher safety concerns for pedestrians, or vehicles are really expecting people just to be crossing. So if you can do it, you should be the last resort. I would absolutely know this situation where you do have two intersections, sidewalks that essentially end. So yes, a certain time we consider the odds considered.
If you went to one, it'd have to be between the intersections, it sounds like. And so this way we're covering both intersections.
I mean, if you wanted either of these,
Well, and this one makes sense because people like to walk against traffic, right? So when I come up that hill, I'm just drawn to cross there because I want to walk against traffic. So yeah, I think this one makes pretty good sense.
Yeah, the other reason this one was sort of targeted is a lot of people do make a connection to Marine Lab as well.
Right.
So provide a connection with Marine Lab down to the harbor. Again, a lot of people also park on the north side of the road. Across the road to get to their destination.
In our next item, which will be traffic calming, but certainly having two crosswalks contributes to traffic.
Slowing things down.
Yeah.
I want to add, as we look at the trails, trying to develop trails on there, it actually looks like a really nice way to have the trails coming together in these various areas to cross over. And then getting them on that side of the road. Well, it's good for the trail. What we want to do trails too. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the window going up to past the Marine Lab to the state, trail and then the connection to the.
Right, right, cross over, and then you can go up, and then you can cross back in.
Corner, it's a line corner, so a lot of trucks and cars get a lot of speed and then they make a quick right.
Yeah,
It'd be helpful to have like a light, if someone pressing a button to go across the street, it'd be helpful to have like a light before they make that right turn, because then they'll know, hey, it's someone walking.
Yeah, no, we certainly acknowledge right when we put this application together that there are site visibility issues on that corner. And so part of the work, we also looked at, the right of way, city right of way versus private property. And it's hard to tell. Have a pointer. Right here, that's actually the city right of way line. It's the edge of the road. So there's a big swath in here that is actually city right away, and that's where there's a lot of hedges that are built up. So as part of this project, those hedges are actually scheduled to trimmed out. Yeah, built. These are double-sided signs as well, so if vehicles are coming up the road, even though they may not see the sign that's on their side of the road, they will be able to first see the sign that's on the opposite side. That's another put simulation, right side of existing conditions, right side of existing conditions, right side of proposed conditions, similar to what we saw before, some additional crosswalk markings, right side, triangle, teeth yield lines, markings, signs, and you see where the parking would be restricted. And as far as next steps, so as I mentioned, and I think actually consider your staff report, the 90% design was recently completed. We're in the process of coordinating with the county of Humboldt to secure the encroachment permit. We expect to have that in April. Finalize design over the next month or so. I think the construction from upgrades, advertisements. It'll be in the June time period, or if we then bring it back to council for the award July meeting. The plan construction should start late summer. This stage just a couple months.
Any other councilors, any other questions for Josh? Exactly.
So you're saying that it will start late summer and only a couple of months to complete, if I understand. So before the end of the year.
Yeah, most of the work, I mean, there's not a lot of concrete work. There's a little bit. Something that would be completed really quickly. And the real work completely separate and really guardrail and site and sort of 3 different things. So it should go pretty quick.
Another question is a little tangential. Sidewalks. I'm new to the area and I'm curious about the sidewalk here and sidewalk over there. They don't connect. What is the rationale? Is there one? Was there?
I didn't quite for
Sidewalks.
for sidewalks, for the lack of connectivity between them. Great question. Which I didn't answer.
My understanding is that over time, various entities were in favor and not in favor of sidewalks. And so what you're seeing is a representation of bits and pieces of sidewalks being put in, and other places people didn't want sidewalks.
They're so handy.
Yeah.
It's standard that there were a lot of them in front of their house, but the city wasn't going to put it in. So the homeowners were required to pay for the sidewalks to be put in front of their house.
Oh.
So that was another reason for some people said, no, we want it. I've got a question too. At the end of Frederick Road, there's that circular area. I think eventually we're going to have a trail that goes up the little something. I don't know, they're going to clean that up. But you know what's going to happen?
I've heard conversations with the land trust that I believe they're looking at that area potentially with the county.
This is the north end of the frontage road?
This is the north end where the county, said the county's gonna go do the rest of it. I don't know if they were gonna take that on, so. I think they have a little nice.
I think it's something land trust is looking at. They'll look at a few different locations of this. Yeah, there's some complications to turnaround and fire turnarounds. Yeah.
I just thought of something else. On Scenic Drive, so the edge lines. I think I know they already know the answer to my question, but when we put the edge lines, is there any room left for pedestrians, or is it just going to be like right along the edge of the asphalt?
So we're not doing edge lines on the sea, it was already been done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this application went forward, the city actually just installed the edge lines on the sea. That was one of those as part of this.
All right, let's move to public questions and comments for Josh. Please, Jackie.
I just had a quick question, Josh. I thought I heard you say crosswalk at the harbor, but it's not really at the harbor, it's on that turn right before you go down to the harbor.
Yeah, it's actually this one here, so it's that's the window.
Okay.
In other words, yeah, what I was saying, the farm.
Right.
To.
We're planning to go to construction on our stormwater project this summer. Well, fingers crossed everything works right. We'll have a crosswalk from the boardwalk over to where the lighthouse is that we put in as part of that project. So that'll be helpful there. This one, and on the Scenic Drive, the guardrail location you said on Rancheria property? No, connected to. That's to.
Yeah, do you mind going back to the guardrail? Yeah. So it's hard to see here, it's shown in the bottom, so. There's 3 existing guardrails on city property. Sharp turns, one on each side. So those get replaced.
Okay.
So this is just north of the tree.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes.
And then it looks Karen Reese, I believe, has her hand up. Karen, do you have a question?
I do. Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Sure, yes.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm sorry I'm late to the meeting, but I live at 396 Ocean Avenue. Is this part of this overall plan by chance?
Is Ocean Avenue part of it?
No, there's no improvements proposed.
So Ocean Avenue is not part of any safety upgrade for the for this town.
Well, we are going to talk about traffic calming next, and
Okay.
Discuss any potential options.
Okay, that's great. Because I would have to say for any upgrade, which I think everything that's happening in this community is so deserving. However, Ocean Avenue is a main feeder out of the community. And I can only tell you what I see outside my door every day as far as speeding, cars. It's unsafe to walk down. So I'm just hoping that as a soon to be probably a main feeder, if everything is taken care of in every other street, Ocean Avenue is going to become an easier target for people to escape without any controls. We don't even have a speed limit sign on this street. So thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you for your comment, and we'll talk more about that as well in a minute. So
Thank you so much.
another public comment about that as well, so. All right, other public comments for Josh or questions? We see because of the presentation, so if you guys see anything, let me know. Okay. All right, we see no other public comments. Oh, Patty.
It's about the stop signs at Trinity and Edwards. Is it a requirement, an engineering requirement to have those really packing plastic thing flags on top of the stop signs? Because I think you can see the stop sign.
I think it's
Without-
for those flags.
They're really ugly and distracting.
Yeah, so you put those up in the stop, you stop sign at the intersections. Yeah, it's.
So we can just take those as.
Yeah.
Okay, public.
I think there's one which.
There, yeah, thank you.
You're right, Patty. I don't like those.
One more thing, I hear Bill about mentioned again, everybody knows we're having a real parking problem in Trinidad. So this new bulb out, is that gonna take away yet another parking
No,
place?
it's zero. This is right on the corner. There's no parking.
And you're taking away red paint and putting something else on, so we can park on Edwards and what are tomorrow's spot?
Yeah, so we did a review of all the red curb paint on Edwards, and it's pretty inconsistent. So we found there are some locations where really if you just take out, say, 5 feet of red curb, you can accommodate a full additional permit.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So maybe we can have Public Works take the 85 off. Okay, since we're allowed to do that now.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you so much. So this was a received presentation and discussed. The council is not taking any action per se. And I think everyone's gotten their questions. So thank you, Josh, for that. And with that, we'll shift then to the next discussion, which is the discussion of the residents' request for traffic calming on city streets. And so I don't know, Eli, do you want to kick that one off, or is Josh gonna cover that?
Yeah, I mean, we had at our prior council meeting a couple of meetings ago. It was mentioned about having traffic calming as a future agenda item. So we tried that time and Josh was here since he is a transportation engineer and figured that he can help with it as far as what potential remedies could work and what has been encountered in other communities. Some of these potential remedies. I'll turn it over to Josh.
Yeah, so for this one, I don't have anything prepared. I understand it'd be more of a question and answer. I don't understand sort of, what the concerns are. Happy to answer any questions, but if you can hear what the concerns are, I think we'd be able to better some potential solutions.
Okay, thank you. So we heard from one community member, Karen Reese, that Ocean Avenue is a kind of an ongoing concern. And that's been echoed in other public comments, that Ocean and View are kind of alternate routes for the main road. And so one of the things that's come up a lot, Josh, is traffic humps, not bumps, I guess, which are the steeper, but the kind of maybe putting in temporary traffic humps, and then also putting lettering on the road that about the speed limit, or those kind. I think those are some of the suggestions that we've heard. So,
Dave, if you don't mind, could you share that station again and the slides at the end? Let's see them. No, keep going all the way from the very last slide. Yes, we did. This is just a brief overview of speed humps. Any other devices they can certainly help reduce. They are located. They typically are on low volume, low speed roads. They're really not very appropriate for thoroughfares, higher speed roads. reaching costs, kind of depends on how many you're doing. Start coming down. So the advantage of them once they do like that, and they also tend to reduce push drivers off of these roads, other roads, especially on local roads that are long. Fair. Disadvantages of adjacent roads. So they just push the problem over to another residential road, which is pretty strategic on these roads. Require some additional signage and striping. Trinidad has been a sensitive subject over the years, so there's no, you need to add some signage and striping that goes along with it. Certainly concerns with voice. It's twofold. It's the bump of cars going over the speed hump, of the suspension collapsing the extending. Then people collapse speed humps and make something happens. Something to be aware of. Other community use them. There's been issues. There's also been issues with vibration. I know the city of Arcata had an issue where lots of litigation over speed hump. Vibrations around. Just causing structural damage. All people can see the full speed hump. So just aware there are certainly negatives to it. Agencies like the city of Arcata require that all residents are within a certain distance of the speed hump actually sign on. Flat very longer emergency vehicle response time. I did see the public comment. There's agreement on that, but certainly this does come up that it does slightly slow down.
So one thing that I've seen is that more communities, because of the reasons you mentioned, trying them out temporarily with I guess they're made from rubber instead of like hard rubber instead of cement. And so it minimizes the vibration potentially. I don't know if do you have any experience with those?
I haven't seen speed humps like that. I've seen speed bumps, which are much smaller. Those tend to be temporary versions.
Because I thought it was both, but maybe.
Excuse me, yeah, I live on Ocean also, so I echo what Karen said. But if not speed bumps, what can all the recreational vehicles love Ocean. They come around and there's a big truck pulling them, and then this house following them, and sometimes a car following the house. You can put them down there. What can?
You know, I mean, what I've seen some other cities do is certainly reduce residential roads to local traffic only. To the process to make that happen. I'm assuming probably would take an ordinance and some code changes, but we've seen that coupled with things like blinkers at the end of the streets, really to disturb vehicles from coming down. Yeah, that comes to mind.
Sound like they're ready remedies.
What about weight limit? I know we've discussed in the past that both View and Ocean, because of the, the tendency to try to avoid Main Street and Trinity to go down Ocean, but a delivery truck is obviously much heavier than a passenger vehicle. Can we use our weight restrictions something that is easy to apply, or is that back to city ordinance and that kind of thing?
I would defer to Eli and Dave on that. I would think that
I was just thinking
city ordinance. I think can that would be done?
right, but to me it seems like you're doing it because the asphalt can't handle it, right? I've seen where trucks run down some street and just tear it up because it's not engineered for large vehicles. But I'm just curious if that's even sort of in our bag of tricks that we can apply to.
It's something I would have to look into.
Okay.
Certainly designating a truck route. Getting trucks.
Yeah.
RVs, some of the big RVs have actually been tracked. There's a couple of them tracked trying to get. But signs out to say no large RVs are certainly not appropriate for these roads. No RVs. Bigger than just allowed on these roads. Is that something that can be done, or have you seen that?
I'll look into it, and those are great suggestions. I'll talk to some other folks, I'll review the codes.
So length limit and weight limit.
Yeah.
And then just a simple ordinance that says local traffic.
Yeah.
Pretty slick, actually.
Enforcement, again, would be tough, but. Be pretty easy.
Doing nothing will guarantee that nothing will change if we do something.
Is there a place for people to turn around, like the trucks that go to Murphy's, for example? So if we say they can't use Ocean View, which I totally agree with, but as they go, where else would, I guess they'd have to go down to the harbor and turn around, right? So
As I understand it, the Murphy's trucks just back in and then leave, but I don't live that street.
I think some of them do. You guys get a lot of commercial traffic on?
It's the RVs.
It's mostly RVs. Excellent. Well, not excellent, but good. And you can handle it.
Is it bus? Buses come down the road.
No, they go to the church and.
I didn't know. Yeah, I just school bus, I didn't know if they come that far.
I think one other suggestion that someone gave, as long as we're tossing out ideas and then we'll go to back to public for more, was a member of the public said, could you paint the speed limit on the road? Does that help at all, or in your experience, or no? Not so much.
You've answered. You've answered.
Okay.
You can probably read it better if you're driving slow.
Jeez.
Like a 15, 10 or 15 mile an hour number, because they go down, it's 25, 30 miles an hour. With an RV the size of the city block.
Yeah, in all seriousness, if we don't have any speed signs at all, then I guess we can't enforce them. So
Yeah.
today it says 25, right?
Well, someone said that there wasn't on Ocean. I mean, I thought there were on both.
Yeah,
I
thought-
know on View because
I guess we should look. So maybe we.
No, there's not. There's not. I live on Ocean. I swear, there's no speed limit sign on Ocean Avenue.
Okay. And Karen, we'll open up to public comments. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I sure. So is the vibration from the speed humps. I mean, I'm willing to be a pilot project and even put some money in. I just think that first off, speed limit signs do help, because when I walk down and I try to slow people down, what do I point to? There's nothing to point to. They're like ready to run me down. And I'm like, okay, I don't even have a speed limit sign on this street to point to, or so, I think that is at the very least, we need that. And I'm willing to be a pilot. I kind of live almost across from AT&T. So not, I bet that area, those folks would partner with me if we want to plan or try to pilot a speed hump. Vibrations, I would like to be part of the solution, and I'm just offering up my frontage road here to help solve this problem.
All right, thank you. I think you're not alone in that. Aaron Hakenin had also offered the same on View. So
What about putting lines on both sides and a middle line in the middle, because that would make people think it's not so fast and slow people down.
It's like a one-way.
Yeah,
Like center line.
yeah, center line with a stripe on the side, that would make you not drive so quick.
Yeah, I think Ocean does actually have edge lines, if I recall. I just don't think they're center lines, is that right?
And I thought it was too narrow for,
That's kind of what it calls to.
you can't have edge and center on that street.
It might be minimum width depends on the road, that's how factor.
And it sounds like we've got some options. So I think we've agreed that we need to look at what kind of ordinances the city needs to do to address some of these concerns, and like weight and length, and provide some restrictions potentially for RVs, recreational vehicles. And we talked about looking at the speed limit signs that we have. So it sounds like we're missing some speed limit signs, and maybe we need to look at that on View and or Ocean. And then
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. Okay, so Ocean, it sounds like there is not, according to one of the residents, and so we need to look at that. And then I think that the speed humps have come up quite a lot, so I think we should at least think about if there's a temporary option and how much it costs. And I'm happy to kind of help do some research on that, because I thought I saw that there were humps, not bumps, but we'll check and see.
And I really appreciate this comment you made that, you know, some cities will actually get the residents to buy into it. Right? We've had 2 offers to have speed humps in front of their house, but there are other people that it affects. I say we start with the offers and
Yeah.
see how they work.
Yeah, so if we have citizens who are willing to kind of take the risk on that and you know, see how it affects them. I do understand that there have been some issues with vibration and stuff, so I think I'd be mindful of that. But
Yeah. So the other measures come up as radar feedback signs in the past.
yes,
If you can go to the next one. This actually, I think in council a few years ago, there was a proposal to add a couple. Street. CPs are essentially. The actual speed limits, you can see where you are. That's that. That causes a night. And they are, you know, stage. Say, Trinidad, where you see a lot of tourists come through, you may not see that as much. In fact, for the tourists, maybe less so for residents.
yeah, those are, I seem to see those a lot on, you know, kind of high traffic streets, you know, main streets and things like that more. Someone did ask about getting one of the portable types. I don't know if you'd want to do that on Ocean and View versus on the main drag during, you know, peak season, but that's another suggestion that came in. All right.
In regards to the sign, when we brought it up a couple of years ago, Trinidad Street, I was actually thinking about roughly where my office is, because once people slow down for the school, then right after the school, they see the floor, you know, until they get towards Edward Street. And that's where I really hear it, you know, in between there. And I just get concerned about if somebody just, you know, accidentally steps out and then someone can't react quickly enough. And sometimes even like commercial vehicles do the same thing, you know, so I won't name specifically, but there is one that I see doing that on a regular
Yeah,
basis.
maybe part of this too is to talk about, you know, police enforcement or enforcement by, you know, the speed limit a little bit more.
Right.
So that could be a tangential discussion as well.
Yeah, plus specific security or whatever.
Right, exactly. I was going to say,
Yeah.
private security can help us there. All right, thank you. Great discussion. I think there's nothing else. We'll go ahead and move to the next item. Thank you very much, Josh. Really appreciate it.
Madam Mayor, tonight, can I make a few comments?
Yes, so we'll open it to,
Happen to be in luck tonight, I've got a resident of Ocean Avenue since 1983, so I can tell you all about it. Been going on Ocean Avenue. And yeah, there has been a big increase in the amount of through traffic using that street. It's basically since the traffic calming devices were put out here by the crosswalk at the school. I think I was just looking at that today, actually, because I think what's happened is between the colored signs in the center of the road and where the curve kind of protrudes out on each side of the crosswalk. If the driver, you know, even in a regular car, you're kind of like, wow, I got to thread the needle here and, you know, make it through this. the bigger trucks and the RVs and stuff, they don't want to deal with it at all. So they go down the street. We used to have a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit sign on Ocean. And I'm pretty sure there was a no truck sign at 1.2. Memory says, but you know, I'm sure what happens with it. So I'm glad you're thinking about trying to figure out some kind of remedy for that. We just get people to slow down and enjoy life, enjoy the day, enjoy being in Trinidad. Don't be in such a hurry. That would be the great thing about it. I do that. So anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Bryce.
And actually, can I bring Josh back up? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not following protocol.
Go ahead.
So Josh, I mean, you can stay there or not, we can all hear, but this, again, going back to view and Ocean, especially Ocean, right? If it's too narrow to have a center line, is it not also too narrow to have an oversized vehicle? Right? So if you can't get two cars to do this, you know, within the lines, can you have a truck and another car? Can you have, I'm looking for, I've been hearing this comment about Ocean and experiencing it. And it seems that Ocean just shouldn't have trucks on it. Right? It's too narrow to have a center line. How could it be narrow, wide enough to accommodate a large vehicle? So
It is too narrow. You're so right. You're so right.
I'm just asking because you're the traffic.
Yeah, I think we'll
here, right?
we'll go measure it.
Yes.
Kind of what it is, but
Okay.
I don't recall.
So it would certainly help support the creation of an ordinance if we
Yeah.
have, you know, and view, same with view. I don't know if view, I think is wider, but maybe
Yeah, but
not
it's just
wide enough.
exchanging one problem for another because then east and west and all the other stuff is not really accommodated to large trucks either.
Yeah.
So. Okay. And I'm just like, there's got to be an easy way that we could just solve this problem with existing rules. But I mean, an ordinance may be the way we need to go. Maybe these speed humps, if we can get some traction on putting a speed hump in on view, and because I'm going to just say it, right? If you're saying, and it makes sense that if we slow down traffic on Trinity, they've moved to view to Ocean. If we slow them down on Ocean, they're just going to move to view.
Yeah,
So let's, as a council, say, let's do it all so that we can really measure this thing
that's right.
and do a pilot speed hump on both view and Ocean. I get that backwards.
Yes, exactly.
Direction do you see traffic on the street? Is there a dominant direction, like a north or south, or both? Is it random?
I see both.
Yeah, it's both.
I please don't hurt me or in any way throw anything at me, but I know the discussion has come up about one way on view and Ocean. As a resident on those streets, is that palatable?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that would be an interesting thing to think about too. So, good point.
But you'd still have the same amount of traffic, you just.
Well,
The
but
area would split it.
Went out of town there.
But a speed hump on going one way, you don't have to worry about opposing vehicles in a pedestrian, right? Heaven forbid you'd have a dog on that street, walking your dog, and two cars are trying to pass. Bryce, you live on the street. What's your thought on a one-way?
We thought about that. Are you saying both of them would be one way going the same direction, or one going one direction and one the other?
In my little mind, I'm thinking one goes north and the other one goes south, just for. Yeah, I don't know. I guess
I think that would do much to deter people from using those as alternative routes, because they would just use one when they come into town and the other when they leave town.
Right. But I guess I guess what I'm thinking about is the two vehicles opposing each other and trying to squeeze into that little tiny space. But
Yeah, well, that's
maybe that's not as big an issue as the speed is.
because that does force people to slow down.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned there are commercial trucks using push.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just.
I did want to know. Yeah, I was just gonna know, like, when I picture, Waiting Room is, and it is sort of like a little higher in the middle, you know, which I think if we did go one way, it would make people sort of like just go right down the middle and maybe pick up more speed just because they know they have to be on one side or the other.
Okay.
I think Josh is the expert and we've given him a lot of good things to think about. Can we ask you to come back, you know, in, I don't know, a month's time or a couple months and give us your thoughts on some of these suggestions, Josh? And then the city can, you know, kind of, we can get to kind of a decision about the things that we could try. Cause it sounds like we're unanimous that we hear that we need to do something. Okay. And then last public comment, Jackie has something to add.
I'm just thinking about how to look at everything collectively. You can't just look at one street or another. And you might consider a public event, a shred event. Pardon me.
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
You could do a pop-up event, so you could do something where you say neck down a component of a road, just as a temporary improvement and see how it functions.
Yeah, see how it works. So try.
and you know, just have the forum for folks to come in and give your opinion, so you look at it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a good one for that. So that's a great.
We go into an ordinance, I think it'd be a really good idea to do more planning.
Yeah, and I mean,
Just
just
a
a thought I had along those lines. Thank you, Jackie. That's a great suggestion. Was I don't know whether this is something that maybe the planning commission should look at, right? And come back with a recommendation to the city council. So something you can.
Right. And then the advantage we have with Josh is because of this project, you know, he'll be coming back here, you know, with the bids and so on and so forth. So then we can attach traffic calming and then you can give us an update.
You can probably find funding for it as well if you do the planning event.
Sounds good. Thank you. Good discussion. Thank you very much. Right, our next agenda item is regarding the discussion decision regarding the draft reasonable accommodation ordinance. So is that something?
Yeah, that's actually, we have Trevor on there and I don't know whether, there she is. Okay.
Trevor, you're up.
Good evening. So this is another one of our housing grant tasks that the Planning Commission's been working on. There's a policy in the housing element that directs the city to make some zoning ordinance amendments to comply with state laws regarding housing. One of those is the Fair Housing Act, which requires cities to make reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities so that they have the same access to housing as anyone else. So that's what this ordinance does. It would be amendment to the zoning ordinance. And for tonight, I'm not proposing a first reading. This is just a discussion item to get questions and comments and feedback from the city council. It does follow, there's a lot other reasonable accommodation ordinances, so we use that as a model. It's fairly standard language in terms of the findings and procedures and things like that. It does provide for an administrative procedure for requests that don't need any kind of discretionary review. But realistically, in Trinidad, most projects would require design review anyway, so then the reasonable accommodation would be considered along with that permit hearing and process. Just a classic example would be a wheelchair access ramp that doesn't meet setbacks. And we actually have had those kinds of requests before in the city, but we don't have a good process to allow that. We don't have any procedure for exceptions to the zoning ordinance other than a variance, and variances don't really work for those situations because they're supposed to be limited to physical limitations on a property. So the Planning Commission worked on this ordinance for a while. I've sent a copy to the Coastal Commission. I haven't gotten official comments back, but again, it's pretty standard language that's been used in other ordinances. It looks like it's likely to be a minor amendment. My plan is in the next few months to come back with 3 housing related amendments. You saw one several months ago that updated definitions for state laws. That's that primarily, but also the Coastal Commission hasn't certified the city's codification of its ordinances. So we always have to use a dual numbering system, and the definitions aren't numbered. So it makes our amendments difficult. So I'm going to prepare an amendment to certify the codification, the numbering of the city's ordinances. So, and we'll probably look at all 3 of those amendments together, but as separate parts, but submit it all as one amendment to the Coastal Commission, then they can separate it in different parts if they need to. But so that's my plan going forward. Once I get comments and questions from the city council, if you're happy with the ordinance, then I would send it to the city attorney and then prepare it for a first reading along with the other amendments.
All right, thank you, Trevor. I'm kind of familiar with this from the time that I spent on the planning commission, so I don't have any questions. Does any of the other councilors have questions for Trevor?
When you say the zoning administrator, that's, I would think that would be probably the city manager, or just anybody that's chosen by the council to do that job. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. The previous zoning amendment that I mentioned that you saw a few months ago, that had a bunch of updated definitions. One of the definitions is zoning administrator. And so that's whoever's designated by the city council. Could be the city manager, could be myself.
Yeah.
Often it's a planning director, but the city doesn't have a planning director. So
this person, the zoning administrator, would have to be able to make certain decisions without going to the city council. Is that right?
Yes, so it would not go before the planning commission or city council or public. But reasonable accommodation determinations are still appealable. So if someone didn't like the decision one way or the other, they could appeal that staff decision.
So that would be put out in the public. So this is going to be something that's going to go on. The city has to know about it. Or that this can this manager or this person just say, "Oh, we're going to do it."
Well, there would be a process. So they would fill out an application. It would go through the standard process for referrals. It would need a building permit, that sort of thing.
Okay. Is this something anybody? Is it a homeowner would apply for this, or is there other ways of asking about getting this done, getting one of these projects put together?
So it could be a homeowner, it could be a tenant, it could be an organization on behalf of someone, but there is a requirement that the home is occupied by a disabled person. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they have to live there full time. It could be, maybe it's a family member of somebody, something like that. So basically anybody could make the request on behalf of a disabled person. If the home is occupied by the person, conditions can be added to the approval. And generally they don't run with the land. So the improvement would have to be removed should the disabled person stop occupying the residence.
My last question is, under findings, it says the requested accommodation will not impose an undue financial or administrative burden on the city. And I wondered how the city could ever get into a financial burden. Wouldn't this absolutely be covered by permitting costs and everything? I didn't know why that was in there.
It's part of the fair housing laws. So the city has to make reasonable accommodations unless there's the one about the financial burden. There's also the one about would it frustrate or impede, implementation of city programs. But yes, I did read some legal cases on some of these, and it would be very difficult to prove a financial hardship. That's not really an issue that comes up. But something about frustrating city laws or policies could come up. One of the examples we talked about at the Planning Commission, for example, so someone could ask for a reduction in the required number of parking spaces, for example, to accommodate something else. I'm not, I don't know in what sense that would come up, but we were talking about, well, could this be a loophole for STRs, for example, to reduce their parking because they want to be able to rent to disabled people. And I think, one of the primary purposes of our STR regulations is to make sure parking is not a burden on the neighborhood. And so to make that finding, I think, we couldn't make that finding because it would frustrate a city policy or program. So that's one example of where that finding might come into play.
Thank you.
Other questions? Comments? Okay, I will go to public questions or comments. All right, Trevor, I don't see any other questions or comments, so I think at this point then since there are no suggested changes. Is that hand?
No, that's the cursor.
Yeah, that's the cursor. Oh my, they got us last time. So we will, I guess, expect this then to come back after the attorneys reviewed it for a first reading. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I'll likely bring it with a suite of other fairly minor amendments as well.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, our next item on our agenda for this evening is the continued discussion decision regarding the draft contract agreement to provide supplemental public safety services by Pacific Coast Security. So we do have, I think, a slide for that discussion. Gabe, and I guess did you have anything you wanted to say about this, Eli, before I start, or do you want to?
Yeah, I'll just say that, we've been looking at possible security to help supplement our sheriff's contract, especially in light of the fact that we haven't been able to have a designated deputy on the ground in the city. So between the private security and also possibly the community ambassador program, we're hoping to have some people on the ground address issues that may come up.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is, some of you may recall, we discussed, we had Gene Bass, the president of Pacific Coast Security here a few months back, presented. The idea is that, there's a shortage of law enforcement officers. And so what we were really looking to do here is fill a gap. So, as Eli says, we currently have support from law enforcement. It's about 3, patrols on average per day, and they respond 24/7 if somebody calls. So that's good. But what we were finding is that there were some hot spots around town, and specifically in areas like the library, the museum, most recently Murphy's, the post office, et cetera. So we think that we would like to pilot a program where we had private security. And so on the slide, you'll see that it was part-time coverage. So it's around 4 to 6 hours, staggered shifts. I included the costs, and we'll do 5 days a week to start. And the total pilot for 90 days is roughly $15,000. So it's very affordable, and we can see how this works for us. So the scope is going to include things like providing a visible presence in areas. These folks will be seen around the library and the museum, for example, during business hours and even off hours. They'll patrol and observe, any kind of strange or abnormal behavior and report it to the police and bring the police in as needed. I think they can coordinate well with the ambassadors as well as we bring those folks on board. and they can work together, and then they'll offer advice to local businesses. I know in the meetings I've had with them, they've been really good at giving advice about what you should do in your place of business to prevent crime. So they have the time to spend with local business owners on things like that. So I think, the last time we spoke about this, we had mentioned that we've included a pilot in the budget. So we have budget for that today. But as Eli said, to do anything more long-term, we probably need to look at issues in funding. So I'm going to pause there and see first if there are any questions or comments from the council.
I just had one question. You said 5 days a week. Does that include weekends?
Yes, so it's going to be staggered. So it'll be different times of day, different days of the week. We're not telling anyone what goes on.
When would this, so let's say it gets approved tonight. I'm just thinking out loud. So 3 months. I'd sure like to see at least something in June or July, right? Our busiest time for activity in the city.
I believe Gene said once we give him the go ahead, and we'd have to, contract approved, it would be 6 weeks, I believe, for him to ramp up to make sure that he had staff on.
Okay. Okay.
So
that takes us to May 1, May,
yeah.
June, July. Okay.
Would we be able to request? I'd say we'd like to start at June, July, and maybe a little bit of.
Yeah.
Because I think that'd be a great test.
Yeah, I think we can ask for at least, either
Well, but-
late, like mid-May to mid-August.
But if we approve it tonight and it's 6 weeks, that's May 1.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
we're all.
And then there's the contract process, so that'll take a few more weeks.
Is it true though that you get more incidents during tourist months?
That's why I'm interested in June and July. That's when we have the largest activity in town. People moving through, some of these hot spots tend to kind of get more business that time of year. So, yeah.
Nice background music all of a sudden. All right, any other questions from the council? Questions from the public, Jackie?
Just wanted to share that we do have security at the harbor, and the security that we have are on our table, and they cover 7 weeks a week, and they come in at about 8 or 9 after the cleaning person leaves, and they stay all night until 6 a.m. And I get a daily report from them, and they indicate any contact with people involved. And what we have been enforcing is that there's no public camping or walking on the beaches or anything like that after 9 p.m. because that's usually when the problems begin to happen. We have a lot of vandalism at the restrooms. Watching that. If it's an out-of-town couple and they just want to take a quick walk on the pier, that kind of thing, that, the security, accommodates that. But it's really helped a tremendous amount. And we have 3 people that rotate the shifts. We've also had some gasoline cycling and damage to a vehicle up on the Rancheria. So they're also doing 2 drive-throughs from the harbor up to the Rancheria twice during the same hours. So I was just thinking it would be important to share that with you because if you do engage in the security, you would know that we're covered at the harbor from say 8 p.m. until 6 a.m. That might help with their homes.
And are there certain times that have you seen any patterns on weekends versus summer versus are there kind of high?
Definitely summarize the days get longer.
Makes sense.
But there is the huge need for your ambassador program with folks looking to find a place to park and camp and even on foot. But we just refer immediately to Humboldt County Sheriff's Office. If our security person is having a problem, he knows to call right away. And it's been working well.
When did you start?
I'm sorry.
When did you start that?
Oh, we've been doing that for a number of years.
Oh,
Yeah. It's gotten really fine tuned though, and I think people know that, you know, once that presence is there, you'll really begin to see results. So I wanted to encourage you and share what we're doing.
Thank you very much. Are there any other public comments?
Hallelujah. I'm very grateful to start. I mean, the 4 broken windows were incredible. So,
Yeah.
not always, but thank you. It's a huge, huge thing for us back there behind the Chevron station where people work.
Yeah, it's taken a while because, you know, it's something new. So Bryce, did you want to add something?
Yeah, Bryce King again. I was just gonna second what's been said, and seems like it's worth a try. Do the pilot program, see where it goes, and
All right, thank you very much. All right, so I'll bring it back to the council. This one, I think we do need a decision whether or not to proceed.
I move that we approve a 3-month trial project with Private Security Pacific Coast and encourage the councilors and public to really weigh in on the effect of this project.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passing unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. Something new, so I really appreciate that, and yeah, excited to see how this goes. All right, I think we are, we skipped item number 5, so we're on item number 6, and that is the discussion of the trails, the closure of Axel Winger Trail and the Parker Creek Trail. And I'm afraid I am going to recuse myself from this discussion after, I don't know how, do you want to explain that, Eli, or do I need to explain it, or just recuse?
Yeah, well, we checked with the city attorney, and he felt like you could or you could not, it's up to you, but you know, it seems like since you're right by one of the trails, you know, it just seemed like it would be better.
Yeah, I just felt that, you know, one of the trails is actually crosses our land, our private land, and we are working on an easement with the city and other agencies. And, you know, I decided today to check, and I just feel like more comfortable if I just go ahead and refuse.
There's no conflict.
That way there's absolutely no question whatsoever. So
Thank you, Cheryl.
Turn it over to you.
Thank you, Cheryl. So yeah, I'm basically, if we could have just a brief summary of the reasons that we closed the trail, the insurance considerations, so on and so forth, and then we'll lead it. I'll lead the discussion.
Okay. So on this particular item, as far as the Axel Lindgren Memorial Trail and Parker Creek Trail being closed to Old Home Beach, I just wanted to give a little bit of an update. We had talked about it at our last council meeting a couple of weeks ago. So last Wednesday, 3 members of the Coastal Commission, along with myself, walked along the beach and saw several areas of erosion. One right by Parker Creek Trail, and another one right by the foot of the Axel Lindgren Memorial Trail. And then in between, you could see where there were certain areas where there was some erosion that had happened. And as a result, talking with the Coastal Commission, because, you know, we do, you know, appreciate and enjoy in California having public access to beaches versus like on the East Coast where a lot of the beaches are privately owned. So as a result, that is one of our primary concerns. But we also are concerned about safety, and even Axel Lindgren Trail, just trying to get down at the bottom and back up is a challenge. And Parker Creek Trail, with everything that's happened with the with all of the lumber and rocks and everything else, is also a challenge, let alone the erosion that's happening. So anyway, we walked and we looked at it. We were talking about some possible measures. And then tomorrow in the morning, Steve Allen, our city engineer, will be going there for a second time to look at everything. And he'll be accompanied this time by Giovanni, who was a geologist from SHN. Giovanni had prepared a report back in 2004 about that beach area. And then we're also, Trevor will be joining us, our planner, and then I'll be down there also. So we'll be walking and looking at it and trying to consider what I would call a short-term option to try to make it safe and protected and hopefully open in May. I mean, possibly before, but hopefully not later. And then at the same time, we'll possibly consider a mid-range 20-year solution. And then in the future, we'll be looking at a longer range solution. Certainly with sea level rise, the water is getting further up the slopes, and as a result is eroding more of that slope area. So we would like to get a short-term fix in there and then start considering some longer-term. So I'll entertain any questions, comments that anyone has. But I just wanted to update everyone the fact that we went down into the Coastal Commission last week, that we're going to be addressing it this week, tomorrow. The engineer from an engineering perspective and the geologist from their perspective. And then we're also talking about it at a future dry management team meeting where we have people from the Coastal Conservancy also present to address this issue.
Thank you, Eli, for that. And just to reiterate the fact that, what we're talking about is really a topic that's been sort of on everybody's mind, but was sort of sped up by this winter's series of storms that really exposed that whole home beach. The transition between the beach and the land now is moved back. The stability of accessing that area. And it just, again, what we're talking about here is a short-term and a mid-term. The coastal resiliency discussion, that's so far down the road in terms of what might be available to us for long-term, but we really need something in the short term, which is what we're asking for. That we are, talking about one, safety, city property, also the entire culturally significant study area is part of this. And so there's so many factors in play that we just want to make sure that folks are aware of what we're doing and what our timeline is, right? So that's what we're here to discuss tonight, is short term with some ideas towards mid, what 20-year I think is a nice something we can wrap our heads around. Not the 2090 story that we're hearing about and so on and so forth. So anyway, that's what we're discussing. And so thanks for the preamble. We'll start with the council. Katie?
One question, any chance of grants or funds for the short term showing up?
Probably not for the short term, but definitely for the medium range, which would be up to 20 years. And then the long range one is actually something that can be considered as part of the Ocean Protection Council grant that we have, which is already going on, the Coastal Resilience Plan. We even have a meeting this Thursday afternoon with the Coastal Resilience Plan on a staff level.
And that's for long term.
That's for long term, and it's just for planning. It's somewhere around $440,000, I believe, in that range of money that the state has given us to strictly look at planning for
Not doing the plan.
yeah, not doing but just some planning for sea level rise, for erosion. So that would be more of the long term way to address it. And then the medium range will search out for grants. But the short term, the issue we have there is that we would like to have something in place within the next couple of months. So,
And does the city have funds for that, or do we have an estimate?
yeah, well, again, tomorrow we will be with the engineer
And then also the geologists get a little better idea of what could be done that may be feasible. And then after that, we can quantify it. We do have, some ability to do certain things. But one thing that we do have, which what I consider it like a rainy day fund, but what it is specifically from our insurance company, when we transition from the prior PARSAC to the current SURA, there was some funds that each city got. And we have a pool of around $79,000 that we can be spending on whatever we feel like we need to do other than salaries and other than legal claims. So that's one pot that we could look at. And then we do have money for trails that we have probably close to 30,000 as far as trails, because we've dedicated about 10,000 each year for the past few years. So those are a couple options. And then who knows if the Coastal Conservancy and some other entities may be able to weigh in with some money. The Coastal Conservancy does have some money for coastal access that they could, tap into. And they've also talked with the Churai, specifically when we do have the Churai management team meetings, and it indicated that there is approximately $30,000 that could be available, for whatever needs to be done, as far as.
One thing that concerns me is the short-term fix, because I was down there, I walked it too, and it's bad. But, and the storms are still coming. So we say we throw 30,000 at it, or pick a number, and then next winter it's all gone again.
Yeah, that's, with Mother Nature, it's hard to really try to do something too long-term unless we have these other solutions, which could possibly entail bringing in material maybe from Eureka, which would be like larger rocks and whatever that could be placed around that area. Other than that, even the Coastal Commission, a lot of times they talk about what's called coastal retreat. So there are some areas of things that you just can't deal with Mother Nature. It's just going to happen. But then there's some areas that we have to deal with, because otherwise it can create further erosion with the hillsides and the homes higher up and so on. So we might have to pick and choose here and there. But yeah, certainly from an engineering, geologist background, planning background, all of those, we'll look at it in different ways. And then keeping the Coastal Commission and Coastal Conservancy involved, since their focus is, the Coastal Commission with just the whole coast itself, and the Coastal Conservancy with access to the coast.
Jack.
For a quick solution that's cheap, what about sandbags? Maybe ask the geologist tomorrow.
Okay.
See, make a sandbag staircase, maybe.
Right.
Protect that area. The sand's there, and we can just build.
Volunteers
that build up the sand.
Yeah.
And you bring up a good point, Mr. Tuttle. I just want to kind of keep everybody that, the Trinidad Coastal Land Trust has an annual, or every couple of years, it's already sort of baked into their schedule that we need to maintain our access to the beach every couple of years, or every year in some cases. So they're always doing community-led efforts for low cost, and they don't have any intention or illusions that's going to be there next year. But it's done every year to keep their accesses safe, and to keep their trails from being unnecessarily undercut, right? I mean, this advancement of what was it called? Coastal advancement. Anyway,
Yeah.
we're not going to stop the ocean, but we're going to at least cajole it to do something less damaging, is what we're trying for in the short term. So, other counselors, sort of questions, comments?
Also, rehabilitation, the only thing we could do is the city council.
That's what I'm saying, is that
We could all meet and have a nice time.
no, we can't, because that violates them. I don't want to blame. But I mean, it's something that we're thinking about. That's what this meeting is tomorrow with the the management team and all these different things there's a lot of really smart, you hear me say this all the time. There's a lot of really smart people in this community. Let's start putting that to task and figure out ways that we can mitigate, again, the short term, medium and long. So
I think they work with us too on all of these because they're really good at getting the word out. They get lots of people.
Yeah.
Almost anybody that wants to can just sign up and help out and they appreciate it. So it's actually a really good community building to do that. So
The hungry buddy.
the land trust.
the land trust.
Yeah, the land trust.
There we go.
So
I have a real quick question.
yes, sir.
The actually, you have two trails. Is actually going to be, it look like a really tough job to even get that on a short term done, or is it something you think can be done? Or you looked at it?
Yeah.
If we have the Parker Creek, seemed like could be done, but is the actual even look like it could be finished in the short term?
Yeah, it's hard to say specifically because that also goes through the 12.5 acre area, the area. So we naturally have to get way into both the Churai and the Yurok regarding that trail. The erosion, when you look from the foot of the trail, the erosion is like more, I believe it was more like just to the left of it. And there has been, I guess, some consideration in the past about moving the trail. So maybe moving the trail might make more sense so that we don't have that constant, damage at the toe of the trail. And even the temporary steps that are like
Cable and log.
cable and the logs. Yeah, I mean, that's pulled off to the side. It's not in place properly anymore. So it looks like one of the steps has been, twisted out.
I see us concentrate on Parker Creek and then we probably can get that.
Right.
If possible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And what I believe we're working towards, Eli, correct me if I'm wrong, is at the April meeting, we'll have a significant update, right? Recommendations from the engineers. The engineers know that we're not, this is something that's very important to us in the short term to at least have some answers to what could be done and what's likely to be cost effective and so on and so forth.
Right.
And the management team, I believe you're meeting with them soon too.
Yeah, possibly next week.
Yeah, so. Okay, let's go with public comment. I see Karen, your little yellow hand is up.
Well, thank you. I keep forgetting to put it down, so I'll lower it right now. But yes, I just wanted to offer up that there's a lot of us that love that beach, and many of us would volunteer to help any restoration. And I know many people that would help. So maybe that would help defray some costs. So, I don't know if that's an option from a liability standpoint, but please keep that in mind. And then secondarily, a lot of people are wondering what's happening, and I don't know if you would consider putting some sort of communication board down at the lowest part of the trailhead so people know who cross over and still go down or decide to turn around, which would be the right thing to do, would have some assurance of what's happening. Communication is the bane of our life. And I think that would be a really helpful point to be able to let folks who are walking down there somehow know what's going on. Thank you.
Great suggestion, and that's definitely part of these next series of meetings is to gather that information so that we can give folks, more than just we're looking into it, right? We've looked into it, and this is right. So we'll have a much more detailed update coming up. Ms. Provost.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for having the opportunity to speak to this matter. I just would like to have, I know it's very difficult. We're coming up toward a very high tourism season for Trinidad, and we all love our beaches. They're just why we live here, why people come here. But I think if we just be patient and understand the importance of working with the Coastal Commission, working with the city, working with the Trinidad, the Shoreline Management Team, and finding a good plan so that can be sustainable for the short term and then eventually the long term, I think we'll be successful if we just have a little patience. And I know that's very difficult. We all love the beach. We all want to get down there. I was down there recently, and there's lots of traffic. Even though the stairs are really difficult to go down, there are people who still want to travel to get to the beach. So if we can just all support a pause on using those trails until a solution is found, I think it would be beneficial for the whole program. We need to support the efforts the city is doing right now with the Coastal Commission and all those involved. And so, I support the city in taking the steps to close the trails right now until solutions are found. And that's all I ask is all the Trinidad residents be patient and support this action. And hopefully we come up with a plan soon. Thank you.
Ms. Provo? Yes. Ms. Jackson.
Hello. Trinidad, actually, I just wanted to respectfully remind the city that the Rancher has asked for communication, anything to do with the village. And I'm glad that I was able to hear the efforts tonight, and I will relay that back to our traffic council, but I believe they would be supportive of closing the trails. As you know, the Rancher has requested membership on the Shoreline Management Team, and that was, another topic. However, I think that Shoreline Management Team, I'm hoping will be a public meeting next week when you hold it, because I believe that was the decision being made that there would be a public meeting each time there was a TMT. Just a general and respectful reminder, the Rancheria is a huge partner in this whole effort as well. And I will relay that information to tribal council and get back to you, Eli. But I believe they are supportive because they also are aware of the huge stabilizations. Please communicate with the Rancheria on all of this and stuff.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, and those meetings would be open except if they are going to talk about cultural resources. So, other than that, that's the only time that they'd be closed.
But there could be a section that was open to talk about the mitigation on the trails.
Okay.
Well, and just to be clear, right, we're in the, the information collecting. So we're not going to do anything until we bring it back to, that's why I want to make sure everybody knows that our intention is to bring this back to the April meeting. So that if any decisions are being made, it's in a public setting. Right.
It would just be nice to have a public portion of that TMT to hear about the recommendations, not the cultural resources.
Agreed. I thought I saw an iPhone trying to talk. I'm not sure if there's more public comment on the Zoomosphere.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, this is Adora King, and you were talking about the smart people in town that can figure this out. This is one of the dumb people in town calling in, but it seems to me, I don't do the trail anymore, but I think, the stairs that you talk about, I think I pretty much understand what that is. It seems like we keep trying to build on top of the ground every time we try to repair one of the edge of these stairwells, and we're building on the same thing that washes away underneath all the time. So that doesn't seem to be working for us. And the only thing that I can see every day is the pier out in the ocean on pylons. I think that's what they're called. That has a heck of a lot of water hitting it. and it doesn't wash away. So would it be possible, they probably can't reach the Axel Lindgren base. I don't know how you would get there, but you can get down Parker Creek Trail with some equipment to pound some very short pylons into the sand. Not that they're sticking up in. The Parker Creek Trail has been designated as the primary trail. So if they could at least fix that one, and I call it that because that was decided in the lawsuit that named Parker Creek. We were told to name Parker Creek as the primary trail. But if they could at least pound some low pylons in and maybe have like some decking that went out that even had like a weight or even something that could be set at different levels, I think that would stay. But that's my engineering comment. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Adora. Other public comment? Mr. Kinney.
Promise to be the last thing I talk about tonight. It was the thing that attracted my attention to the agenda because I love the trail system we have here in Trinidad. I'm so proud that I believe we were the first city in California to get their local coastal program certified way back in the early 1980s. Included that trail component in there. We need to take care of those trails and make sure we keep that as an amenity for not just us now, but for future generations to use those trails. And really, when you think about it, a trail is something that happens when people walk across the lane. Trails, that's how they come into existence on the most basic level. Sure, they can be enhanced and all sorts of other things can be brought to bear, stairways and cable stairs and all that kind of stuff. But really, if you just let people walk to the beach, a trail will develop, And so it's a little concerning, the sort of trend I've been noticing the last few years of wanting to close trails in Trinidad, including the Van Wyck Trail. That's, was supposed to be a temporary closure. How many years ago now is that? So I'm very sensitive to this idea about temporary closures and just closing trails in general. So I'm looking forward to the Axel Lindgren Trail and the Parker Creek Trail get back into service as soon as possible. In the short term, it won't require any super fancy technological approaches, shall work and let people walk there, and the trail will embed itself into the ground. And a little mention was made of the Tri-Ancestral Society, Yurok tribe in the Rancheria. I believe your policy 69 of your general plan typically mentions the Rancheria as one of the entities that always has to be consulted. Anything to do with the 12-acre area. So be aware of that. That's in black and white there. And also a little puzzled by the concern of our insurance company about liability to the city, because the government code specifically exempts cities from liability for any kind of trail that goes to a beach or a riverfront. Any kind of recreational trail, you've got complete immunity from design defects, natural conditions. Yeah. So I don't really understand why the insurance company is concerned about that.
Yeah, the only one they ever told us that needed to be closed was the Van Wyck Trail. But maybe because that's not one of the ones that actually, the others go directly to the beach and directly out.
Yes, that's
Because even with the Axel Lindgren, all they wanted was a really long sign with about 8 or 9 different points saying, at your own risk, there's so on and so forth. But they didn't want us to close it.
But they did they tell us we have to close the Axel Lindgren and Parker Creek?
No, not through the insurance
Anyway, I'm very glad you're all working on it, and I'm encouraged that some simple solution can be found for the short, medium, and hopefully the long term.
Thank you very much. Any last comments from the public?
Piggybacking on what Bryce said about that we're not liable insurance wise, which I thought we were. So I'm glad to hear that that's not the case. Trails and this. So if the trails have to be closed, can't they just be posted? Damage to the entrance or of the access to the beach, go at your own risk.
I think the city really felt, and I'm saying this, the conversations I've been part of anyway, is the damage was so severe that it was now past our sort of comfort level of saying, let's not encourage people to go to a place that is just so poorly, or it's so damaged.
That's why I say
Yeah.
to post it, that it is damaged and it will be difficult to access, be aware.
Right, and I think while we were coming up with a plan, whether it be to leave it closed or to do some work on it or let it just be a naturally difficult trail, I think that's what we're asking for in this period is let us wrap our heads around what can be done, what needs to be done, and then go from there. And there were just more questions than answers.
What that was my question for what you just asked. We're asking for we're just getting a discussion, right? So we're not making any decisions, but what would be your solution if you talk about possibly closing, but what would you actually do on these trails to if we said let's close them? What would you put them off? Would you just put a sign?
Yeah, what we currently have, which are the barricades. So we have a series of 3 barricades with saying trail closed on all 3 barricades.
Okay,
So yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to remember, did we vote on this, closing it, or it was just done right after the storms?
It was done as a 30-day emergency, and now we're asking to keep it closed for another month while we assess. That's what we're asking.
But is it worth considering on some other avenue, because people are still going down there, and does it have to be closed?
Well, we also are, we're also a member of the Shoreline Management Team, and the Shoreline Management Team recommended also that it be closed. So we're just trying.
Creek access.
Yeah, access. Right, you're right, because of all the areas, exactly.
Yeah.
Asked to vote tonight on anything. This is just
this is just exactly.
We are getting getting the temperature, if you will.
Yeah, and I just wanted to keep the public aware because trails number 1 and coastal access number 2 are both very important, not only for our residents but visitors. So as a result, I just wanted to keep everyone up to speed as to what we're doing proactively to help address this. So I'll have a much better idea after tomorrow, after I have the engineer and the geologist. Like I said, our engineer has already gone down there with me, but the geologist hasn't, and especially because he has addressed that area before and done a report on it in the past. I want him to look at it and see what suggestions that maybe he can come up with along with our engineer. And then also having a planner there, because she's the one that does the CDP, the coastal development permit, that needs to be in place as well. So, but yeah, we're proactively trying to find what needs to be done in order to safely have people down.
Any other closing questions, comments from the council, and then I'll bring it back to the public. Back to the public.
I just was wondering if a Rancheria representative could attend that walkthrough.
Sure. Yeah.
What time would that be?
Yeah, at 11 o'clock.
I'm not sure if I have anyone, but I do
Where are you meeting? At town hall?
Yeah, we're actually gonna meet in town.
Yeah.
at 11. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for the discussion, and really look forward to, hearing, what happens tomorrow with the management team and so on and so forth. Ideas, we're always welcome to, or we're always interested in ideas, what can be done. And I'm also hearing a lot of interest in volunteerism to do some work. So that could be actually, that could be a really positive, effect of this discussion. So with that ends our discussion items. Future agenda items. Any future agenda items for consideration?
Oh, and then we'll have to let Cheryl know she wants to come in for this part.
Oh, I thought she was.
Oh, no.
You've been in the bathroom this whole time.
Yes. She's in the civic club room. Yeah.
Nothing. So we're getting Cheryl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was in the civic club room.
Oh.
Yeah, I think
I thought I saw her walk.
I think she initially said she was going to stick around, but then I think she
Okay.
probably got a text from her husband showing the fireplace glowing and the dog wagging its tail. Or just peace out. So future, that's what I got. So future agenda.
I got one. I'd like to find out what's happened with the step. In terms of getting somebody out to work on that.
Okay, thank you. We do like to talk about stuff. Other future agenda items. Any public interest for agenda items? All right, with that. Bryce, I gotta move it, Bryce speed, yeah.
Since you brought it up, it's been driving me crazy for years now. At the end of Ocean Avenue, Ocean End, there's an invasive species shrub of some kind that the city always cut it down so it was level with the level of the big rock stone there with the black in it.
Oh, right.
And it's growing up higher and higher and higher. It just needs to be cut down,
Yeah.
back down to the level of the rock. And I would do it. If you guys would give me permission, I would just do it.
I think we'll have our public works.
Yeah.
When I was.
Okay.
No, Bryce, there are alder trees that are growing up in that garden in front of my house. And I have these nightmares of me clipping it and ended up in the pokey because I'm cutting down trees in Trinidad. So we'll have our public
Well, a
works.
tree is different than a shrub.
Well, it sounds like it needs work, so.
So thanks for that opportunity.
Probably won't be an agenda item, but we'll work on that.
As long as it gets.
I just want to be clear. All right, with that, we're adjourned.
No.
Recording stop.